Welcome to my top 3 favorite maps from Welcome to the Moon. I got through the campaign. It was loads of fun. We played 8 different maps, and I guarantee I won't spoil the campaign secrets and details. I will say that once I got to the 8th map and we finished, I found out there's even more secrets in this box and even more gameplay than I ever imagined. So it continues much like the initiative did when I finished that, because I had a grand old time with that game and I sure enjoyed Welcome to the Moon. So in here what you'll get is just my take on the base game, essentially kind of game 1, and then those top 3 and my take on the campaign story in general. So just to get us started, I want to just go over kind of the basic core mechanics of Welcome to the Moon, which harkens back to Welcome to. So as you take a look at my over-the-camera shoulder, you're going to see that there are 3 different stacks of cards that have numbers, and I've already flipped over the top card from each of those stacks. So when a player wants to take their turn, which is simultaneous, everybody takes their turn at the same time, they take one of these pairs. I can take a 9 plant, an 8 plant, or a 3 energy. And on this very base board, you have the shape of a rocket, and you are racing to be the first person to cross off all of these rockets, get past any of those malfunctions, and launch your rocket into outer space. If you can do that and you have the most points, then that's going to essentially be the winner of this very first game. So it's a big old race. So here's what happens is you're going to see that there are different types. These are the actions. And you're going to see that there are all of these different rows. So I'm going to take my turn and I'm simply going to say, do I want the 3 energy or I want the 8 or 9 plant? Plants go in the plant section here. Energies go in the energy section. Now, when you complete a room, which has a wall, you get to have the thing that's in the room. That's how you get your bonuses. That's how you get your rockets and your extra mark and X, and how you get to kind of, hurt other people's ships by giving them malfunctions. Sabotage, right? So I'm going to take the 3 energy, and I'm going to put my 3 right here, simply because you have to put your numbers going from low to high across the entire row, not inside of a room only. The room cuts you off for bonuses, but your numbers must continue ascending. So I want these to be low, but this is a really, really long row. It is the longest one here, and that could be a 1 or a 2. And I want to leave myself that option because in this game, the numbers go 1 to 15. There are fewer on the edge going into more and more copies of the number going into the center. So 7s, 8s, 9s, those are going to be more common than your 1s, 2s, and then 14s and 15s. That's it. That's all I do. I did this. Lewis did something else. Travis did something maybe the same. I don't know. Who knows? We all wrote down. It's all done. Now you just flip this card over and you say, okay, now I have a 7 plant, an 8 robot, and a 15 water. And now we just write another number. And players will go at the same time. And let's say I want to write 15 right here because that is the water section. And 15 is a pretty good bet to put at the end. That's a nice, safe number. I hopefully will be able to get my rockets going here and my rockets going here. But that's what I chose to do. I could have very easily put an 8 in one of my robot columns. And then I could have put a 7 anywhere in here. I chose to do that. Done, right? This is how fun and fast and easy the Welcome to structure is. Now, beginning turns seem to be pretty fast. Later turns, when you have a lot of options and you're juggling a lot of possibilities, it might slow you down. But now I'm looking at 7 water, 5 plant, 7 robot. I don't know. Maybe I want to jump down in here into my plants and I want to do this one because If I finish this, so I'm going to write my 5 right here. If I get a number right here that I feel comfortable putting, maybe like a 6 or a 7, I then will get that bonus stuff. And this little arrow says I can fill in an empty arrow anywhere, and that's going to give me those kind of fainted, like shadowy image, which is rockets, which is again rockets down here. Now we will continue just writing, and if anyone closes off a room, they will then say, I closed off a room and I get these bonuses, and you go bonus, bonus, I get a check box in here, I get, rockets over here, I sabotage your ship for that. The other thing you're looking at is this ABC objective. And this is where I think the campaign comes to life just a little bit. You have a choice between the ABC based on who's essentially the captain. And there are always going to be 2 A's and 2 B's and 2 C's. And so the story's going to guide you and give you an option, and then whatever option you pick, you then are essentially doing this one over that one. And so it changes the public objectives. So you have 2. If you're the first person to do it in the round, which you can have friendly ties, you get 3. And in this case, it's going to be 3 of these ships, and you just mark them off like that. And so you are going to be earning these based on certain things. This one says finish all of the orange, orange, and blue. If you finish all of those and put numbers in them, you get it. Purple, if you get all the way across, you're going to get every number in there, the entire energy row, you're going to get that. And this one is, if you have been sabotaged 5 times, you're going to get a bonus, which is a nice boost for having a disadvantage. Now, those were just these 3 that were picked. There are different A's, B's, and C's, and that goes for every single one of the maps. So now that we kind of have an idea of the basics, this is just that very first map, I am going to jump into my number 3 favorite map. No, it is not number 1. While I will play number 1 with any new player in a heartbeat, and it's the only one I'll play with new players. It's not necessarily the most complex, and I think that there are other maps in here that just do some amazing things. So the one thing I do want to mention is that when you go from map 1 to map 2, drastically different. I just couldn't imagine a different map going from 1 to 2 because I was so used to this concept of welcome to the neighborhood, welcome to the basic map 1. And then I got to map 2 and I went, what the heck is going on? It radically changes the game. You have to write ascending all the way here from Earth to the moon, but as you can tell, there are way too many numbers to put here for you to do it sequentially from 1 to 15 with no breaks. So the strategy here is to find a way to break by using energy marks. You circle energy and it gives you a break, and you literally draw a line and say, here's where I get to start over. And so your numbers go from 1 to 15, but then they start over 1 to 15. And I get another one of these breaks and I put my line here. And so it's a strategy that just absolutely blew me away. I loved it. I think it's just so innovative and so balanced. It works incredibly well. And players end up taking very different routes to get to the finish. So from 1 to 2, I was just already on board. I thought it was amazing. So I'm going to put these maps to the side, and I am going to bring out, again, my number 3. This is the one that I just thought, oh my gosh. Number 5. Number 5 is my 3rd favorite. Now, when you get to number 5, you're doing a handful of things, and you're probably like already seeing the difference between this and map 1, and even map 2 that I showed you. Because what you're doing here is you've got these 2 starting spaces. I'm just going to highlight them because they're outlined in pink, but they're kind of hard to see if you're not up close. These are the only places you can start your numbers. You have to begin there. So I'm going to flip over these cards and essentially just kind of start from here. So I've got 14 plant, 5 energy, 8 plant. But the rule is that you have to go from here, you're starting essentially in the middle. You're not, and you're restricted to go to adjacent spaces or in the center. So if I want to start I mean, here, I want that to be pretty much in the middle. I don't want to do a high number because I have to go higher. And if I put a low number here, I can't go any lower. And so I'm going to take maybe that 8 plant, and I'm going to put my 8 here in one of the legal starting spaces. And because it was a plant, I get to circle a plant that is on that row. That's how you get plants in this game. That's how you get water in this game. And if you get a robot, you're essentially marking through one of these lines. You're like, there it is. And you're building a dome because you've made it to the moon and you've got these towers and these colonies that you're trying to protect. And so you're doing this, but if you get one of the other symbols, it's going to break those in half, making it twice as hard to achieve your goal. And if you don't cover up your dome, if you don't fill in all your robots by the end of the game, you are going to receive negative points. Wow, I mean, it's like 6 per segment that you don't do, which is insane. You can mark it down to get to 2 times per, but boy, is it hard. It is so incredibly fun and challenging. So I did my 8 plants. I flip over here my next 2, and I have a 6 and an 8 and a 15. Well, I can't do an 8 on an 8. It has to be a different number. It has to be higher or lower. So I can't do that there. I could pick an 8 over here. 15 is kind of impossible at this point because I don't want to max out any of my central areas. Each one of these towers functions as its own ascending, descending number. So I think maybe I'll just try this 6 and put a 6 right here. I know I have to go 5, 4, 3, 2, but maybe I'll get an X, which means it can be just like it takes its space without taking a number. And then I'm going to get this astronaut point, which allows me to not have a massive negative points at the end of the game. You also want to be the first to get to the top and the first to get to the bottom, which gives you super massive victory points. So if you're first, you get 6. If you get to the top there, second is 3. These guys, 20 and 25, massive amounts of points. And of course, you have your ABC objectives, which is very unique to this particular map. Now, the reason I just really like this is because it just totally messed with my brain in the way that you have to put the numbers in. The numbers have to essentially go middle and spread out. Lower middle spread out. Medium middle, higher lower spread out. I mean, like, it just kind of blew me away. I loved that you're building this dome. It's so thematic. And I just got it. I just loved it, you know? I don't know if I did well. I probably got last. I mean, I got second and third in almost every game I played. But I just had such a good time playing it. So I really enjoyed 5 for this variation on ascending, descending numbers where you start in the middle. And I love the dome. I really thought that was a cool feature. Okay, moving on. I'm going to put this guy over here. Let me erase him first. Honestly, you never know. I don't want things to stick. And these have worked so well. They feel so good and they erase incredibly well. So 5 was my number 3. My number 2 map is number 6. This is called The Virus. And I like this because it began players asymmetrically. They will select one of these 4 areas to activate as their beginning virus. You essentially put a check by saying that virus space is active and it will fill up the area in which it's in and spread potentially. And the thing that's crazy about this is this map it looks all over the place. There are stairways and walkways and connections from section to section. Each one of these sections is 5 spaces inside. Yet you still have the rows. You've got these 5 rows and each one has to go from low to high. You have to start here and go in ascending order. Each one functions on its own number scale, yet they're connected to different places that could be totally different. I mean, like this floor down here, this section is connected by this walkway. And it's nowhere near it, essentially, or this like, ladder. So when you have a virus and the virus outbreaks, it essentially clogs up these spaces where you want to put numbers, And you want to put numbers to get energy, and you want to get plants, and you want to get water. And the virus is making it so hard to do that. And so when a player triggers the radioactive, which is this symbol here, they make it run for everybody else except for them. So it's kind of like a sabotage like you saw in the first map. And the really cool thing about this is you're going to trigger these different viruses. You're going to say, okay, green virus is now active, blue virus is now active, red virus, and you trigger those by getting your objectives. And so every time you run, you start left to right, top to bottom, and you're going to run the virus. This is where the viruses live. That's where they start. They will then infect other places if the space that they're in is not blocked off by putting barriers up, which you put barriers up to block it, or it will just keep going into other places, the next room, and it will fill in and start clogging up the joint. This game just kind of, again, blew my mind. When I'm thinking about games like the ones that I want to play again, the ones that I want to just engage with, a puzzly, maybe sometimes unpredictable feature that we're all dealing with. Like for me, this was just massively just smart. It was so clever and so interesting. Again, I mean, I never thought that Welcome to could have this and like be that cool, because the robots, instead of building a dome, they're the ones breaking off all the contact to kind of like isolate your rooms and stuff. And so it really keeps the virus, like in one space and not infecting everything else. So this one just, again, like it makes me go, like thinking about playing this right now. But the cool thing is that in the beginning, everybody can choose maybe perhaps the same spot, but you have the possibility of choosing a different location for the wild virus that already starts active. So again, you're still collecting plants and water and energy and things like that. You're still doing the cards and flipping. You've got objectives that match this map. But boy, did it really just challenge me in such a cool way. Okay, so I'm going to erase this bad boy, get it clean, and I'm going to just talk a little bit about the campaign, because it's just something else. So the whole idea, Welcome to the Moon, is that you are taking off on a rocket, going to the moon, establishing colonies, you're terraforming. Oh, you might run into a virus because you weren't expecting it, and the virus is going to take over your particular colonies, and now you've got to essentially escape to survive. And that's the last couple maps, the adventures that you're going on afterwards, is by escaping the colonies that you built, and you are trying to get away from the moon. So thematically, the campaign works really well. Every single one felt like a totally different map while still doing the same core mechanics, which I've left on the table because I want you to see the game always uses these cards. The game always has two options of an A, B, and a C for your objectives. And the game always has the trigger, which is if a player can't place any of their number action combinations and they get through their freebie mark spots, which means I can't play, you essentially have 2 or 3 times where you can't play before the game is over. If you get through the decks essentially twice and are needing to get into the 3rd time to shuffle, that's going to end it. Or a player gets all of the objective cards. So I get A, and I get B, and I get C to any degree. That's going to trigger the game. And if a player fills in all of the spaces in their map, that's going to trigger the end of the game. So there are some basics that you just kind of like, oh yeah, this is what it is. This is what I'm working for. This is how it works. I can always see what's coming up because the action is always on the number underneath it. You can see it. And so the game just begins to feel comfortable while each map challenges you radically with a brand new concept that seems insurmountable at first, but by the end, you are just loving it and laughing and looking at what other people did and like what kinds of strategies they employed. So I think the game just develops so well as this ongoing campaign, and then of course opens up at the end. Like I said, there's even more. There are tons of boxes in here with cards that we still have yet to see. It has a little don't look symbol on it, and we haven't looked. So I'm going to move on to my favorite map. This is the one that just, yes, did it for me. Number 8. Now, you might be looking at this and thinking, why is it turned sideways? Well, there are a couple ways that this map needs to be read, and that's one of the reasons why it came in number 1 on my list, is because this is placed between you and the player to your left. And now, for the first time, you are sharing this entire board with an opponent, and you are competing directly with your opponent to your left and your opponent to your right, because their board is between you. So this is your side, this is their side, and here is the robot track in which you are racing to get all of the goodies before they race from their end to get all the goodies. And you are essentially putting numbers inside of these planets. And when the last space of a planet has a number in it, which has to match the number that's shown at the top of that planet, so this planet needs 13s, 14s, and 15s, and there are 3 spots free, then that planet will close, and we will look in to see who has the majority. Do I have more of my symbol written in there, or does my opponent, let's say Travis, does he have more of his symbol in that planet? And yes, there are moons that go to each of these planets, and the moon spaces will give you more of your type. So you just count up raw numbers. Did I fill in more of these? Let's say I was triangle, let's say Travis was circle, and if I had mine there, which gave me an extra bonus plant because I covered up a plant, I have 2 to his 1. I would then draw a triangle on that particular flag, and that's going to give me ownership over that particular planet and that green. So I'm going to be able to get planet bonuses based on what I've got, plus these cards are going to have those bonuses as well. So I thought this was just highly just creative, and it, again, like, I get to the 8th map. I mean, this is the 8th time I've seen a new iteration of Welcome To, and I look at this map and I think, I can't even understand this map. So I read the instructions, and then I think, oh my gosh, this is bananas. I mean, like, I just still can't even think of how they came up with all of these in succession with growing complexity and with varying takes on the basic system, and this did it. This absolutely did it. This takes gold for me, hands down. It takes first place for me, because this map is here, and on one turn we alternate. You're playing solely on the map to your left. So I flip over the cards and I say, do I want a 3 lightning, a 9 water, or an 11 water? Well, I want a 3 over here, so I'm going to put my triangle here in 3. And because it was a lightning bolt, I'm going to come down here to my lightning bolt section, and I'm going to mark off, I have my green planets worth more multipliers, because I already have green ownership of this planet. I got it over Travis. And that was my turn. That's it. Then we flip the cards, and every player is now playing on the other map. And so now I'm working on this map. Travis is working on this one, but he wants to come over here. And he's got a 4 robot, a 9 calendar, a 6 lightning bolt. He's probably going to play over here, or maybe in that 9 planet, or this 9 planet. Meanwhile, I'm over here trying to do stuff and take things away from Lewis and get majority and like work my robots. It's just absolutely mind-boggling to me. I loved it. I think it just worked so well. We all had a fantastic time, and what a finale. What a smash bang ending to the entire campaign. It was absolutely just worth it. I mean, I couldn't believe that I was surprised yet again. So I loved the way that the majority works here, that you get these cool bonuses, that you're kind of investing in what you know you need to invest in, and you're just getting raw points for water and plants. And over here, it's just a race to get to the goodies with your robots, which I get a robot and I simply just go up and I go here. I'm like, oh, I got a plant. Okay. Well, I got another robot and it gives me this water. And now my water is up to 3. My plants are up to 4. and you just feel like you're getting a lot here, and you're going back and forth, you're ping-ponging, oh, this map, that map, this map. So I liked it. I liked it so much. And so I have to say, I do have one kind of critique of the series. If you look here, you're going to see that at the bottom, the victory points awarded to first, second, and third really ramp up in the second half of the game to an alarming degree. So first place gets 6 stars. I think, you know, none of us had 6 stars going into like game 5 or 6. But getting 6 stars with just one game, we felt like maybe it was just a little bit too much. It was too skewed. So when you have victory points, it shows on each map who gets points. And sometimes third place doesn't even get points. Like early on, it's just 1 for first place. And then it's like 1 for second place and 2 for first place. And then finally third place is starting to score things. And so it just works its way up. And I think that each map is so interesting and unique and worth time. It's worth its own investment, that perhaps more of like a gentle curve or a gentle ramping up would have worked much better for the victory point scoring in the campaign than simply making the last 3 maps an insane amount of victory points for first place. And I think that probably is what really just, I mean, it actually averaged out all of our scores, because the winner was 1 point ahead of the tied second place. And so it made it to where I had a chance. Like I said, I was doing really, really bad in the beginning. I was getting second and third, and I was never winning. The only game I won was game 8. And so because I got 6 victory point stars in game 8, it brought up my overall average. And it was just kind of like, what? Did I just win the campaign? Because it was going to be one of the other two. I mean, it was going to be Lewis. Lewis was crushing it the whole time, but he was getting little points here and little points there because they were lower level maps. And I think the lower level maps are just as good and interesting as every other map. There wasn't a stinker, I will say that. I did not feel like a map just stunk, that like it didn't work, that it was bad. No, I didn't. I actually had a really hard time coming up with my top 3. I actually had 4. Map number 5 was tied, and I just couldn't let it go, and I finally just kicked it. I just kicked it to the curb. I don't know if it was the right choice, but I love map 5, I love map 6, and I love map 8. So those were my top 3. And again, map 8 just blew me out of the water. I loved it. I loved that we were actually playing on the same board with our opponents. It was insanely cool and so fun and really interactive. So you were directly competing with your opponents. So cool. So that's it. That's it, folks. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope seeing some of the maps and seeing maybe how my 3 favorite maps really work in a little bit more detail clears up a lot and helps you see why I appreciate this entire campaign so much, but also perhaps why I like those specific maps, like what kind of works for my brain. So thanks for joining me, and if you can, get your hands on this game, Welcome to the Moon. I cannot recommend it enough. I seriously can't. It is going to stay around. I'm going to share it, do the campaign again, dig into some of those things that I haven't discovered yet, because I think it looks fantastic and I am a very curious person. Okay? Well, I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me.